know, there are American heroes who don't like this idea. Neil Armstrong, Gene Cernan have both testified against commercial spaceflight and the way that you're developing it, and I wonder what you think of that.
I was very sad to see that, because those guys are, those guys are heroes of mine, so it's really tough. I wish they would come and visit and see the hardware that we're doing here. And I think that would change their mind.
They inspired you to do this, didn't they?
Yes.
And to see them casting stones in your direction.
It's difficult.
Did you expect them to cheer you on?
So they're hoping they would?
Did you think, I need to pack this in?
Never.
Why not?
I don't ever give up. I mean, I'd have to be dead or completely incapacitated. The ability to attract and motivate great people is critical to the success of a company, because a company is it's a group of people that are assembled to create a product or service. That's the purpose of a company. People sometimes forget this elementary truth. And so if you're able to get great people to join the company and work together towards a common goal, and you sort of have a relentless sense of perfection about that goal, then you will end up with a great product. And if you have a great product, lots of people will buy it. And then the company will be successful.
Yeah. You feel like people define you by the fact that you're wealthy, and that they define you in a pejorative way?
For sure. I mean, not everyone, but
right.
There's for sure in recent years, billionaire has become a pejorative. It's like that's a bad thing, which I think doesn't make a lot of sense in most cases. If you basically organized a company, how does this wealth arise? It's if you organize people in a better way to produce products and services that are better than what existed before, and you have some ownership in that company, then that essentially gives you the right to allocate more capital. So there's a conflation of consumption and capital allocation. So let me take Warren Buffett, for example, and to be totally frank, I'm not his biggest fan, but he does a lot of capital allocation. And he reads a lot of sort of annual reports of companies and all the accounting, and it's pretty boring, really. And he's trying to figure out does Coke or Pepsi deserve more capital? It's kind of a boring job, if you ask me. But it's still a thing that's important to figure out, like which is a company deserving of more or less capital? Should that company grow or expand? Is it making products and services that are better than others or worse? And if a company is making compelling products and services, it should get more capital, and if it's not, it should get less or go out of business.
Also, people tend to overweight risk on a personal level. It's one thing if you've got a mortgage to pay and kids to support, and that if you were to deviate from your job, how are you going to feed your family and pay the rent? And okay, that's understandable. But let's say you're young and you're just coming out of college or coming out of high school, or whatever. What do you risk? You're not going to starve. It's really certainly not in any kind of modern economy. It's so easy to earn enough money just to live somewhere and eat food. You could, very easy to do. So I don't know what are they afraid of? They're mostly afraid of failure, I think, but people should be less risk averse when there's not much at risk.
As long as people stay super focused on creating the absolute best product or service that really delights their end customer, if they stay focused on that, then if you get it such that your customers want you to succeed, then you probably will.
Right. You have to focus on the customer and delivering for them.
Yeah. Make sure if your customers love you, your odds of success are dramatically higher.
Somebody could say, in fact, people do,
that battery packs are really expensive, and that's just the way they'll always be, because that's the way they've been in the past. You're like, well, no, that's pretty dumb, because if you applied that reasoning to anything new, then you wouldn't be able to ever get to that new thing.
Right.
It's like you can't say, oh, horses. Well, nobody wants a car because horses are great and we're used to them and they can eat grass. And there's lots of grass all over the place, and there's no gasoline that people can buy, so people are never going to get cars.
Right.
People did say that. And for batteries, they would say, oh, it's going to cost. Historically, it's cost $600 per kilowatt hour, and so it's not going to be much better than that in the future. And you say, no, okay, well, what are the batteries made of? So first principles would be to say, okay, what are the material constituents of the batteries? Mm-hmm. What is the spot market value of the material constituents? So you can say, okay, it's got cobalt, nickel, aluminum, carbon, and some polymers for separation, and a steel can. So break that down on a material basis and say, okay, what if we bought that in the London Metal Exchange, what would each of those things cost? Like, oh, geez, it's like $80 per kilowatt hour. Mm-hmm. So clearly, you just need to think of clever ways to take those materials and combine them into the shape of a battery cell, and you can have batteries that are much, much cheaper than anyone realizes.